الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين وبعد. Alhamdulillah, we finished Surah Al-Infitar last week, and we are on Surah Al-Mutaffifeen, which is Surah number 83, in the last portion of the Quran. Inshallah, we'll cover the first 6 ayat today. Inshallah, there is some detail that we're going to go into based on the introductory concept that starts off in the surah. Just an introduction to the surah. The name is Al-Mutaffifeen. It is pretty much the only name that is given to this surah. Mutaffifeen means those who give less than what is actually due. So they don't give in full what is actually due. And whether or not this is a Makki or Madani surah, it was revealed before the Hijrah or after the migration, before or after the migration of the Prophet ﷺ. There's some disagreement on this. Most of the scholars of the Tafsir seem to be that of the view that most of it was revealed after the migration of the Prophet ﷺ to Medina. Therefore, it's a Madani surah. And the last portion in the Medina Ajram, the last portion of the surah, is actually was revealed before. And this happens at times with the Quran because we have a 23-year period where the Quran was revealed, addressing different things as they happened. But in the compilation of the Quran, different parts were put in different places. And this is amongst the miraculous nature of the Quran. That a text that was put together in a way that it wasn't actually revealed, yet it still makes sense to read it from beginning to end. This is one of the miraculous nature of the Quran that mankind can produce, right? And so this is part of what the Quran actually is. Another view is that all of it was revealed before the migration, meaning all of it is Makki. And another view again is that it's kind of revealed in between. So before the Prophet ﷺ migrated to the city of Medina, and while he was on his way to do that, it was revealed there. So according to this view, it's either the last surah to be revealed at Mecca or the first one to be revealed at Medina. So again, we can kind of tell that it's towards the end of the Meccan period and towards the beginning of the period of the Prophet ﷺ's life in the city of Medina. It's the 86th surah in the order of revelation according to the view that it was revealed kind of in between. And the theme of this surah again is kind of the belief in the hereafter, just like the previous surahs. Again, a lot of the surahs in the last portion of the Quran, they talk about, focus on belief in the hereafter. But we'll jump into it inshallah, starting with the first 3 ayat. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ويل للمطففين الذين إذا اكتالوا على الناس يستوفون وإذا كالوهم أو وزنوهم يخسرون. The rough translation of these ayat is, woe to those who give less than due. Those are the Mutaffifeen, the title of the surah, who when they take a measure from the people, take in full, but if they give by measure or by weight to them, they cause loss. Meaning they give them not exactly what they're supposed to give them. The word wail, I think we've discussed it before, it came up in one of the other surahs. Wail is a word that is used to denote destruction or something evil to the one it's being used against. So it's used to imply failure and loss or some kind of evil. It's also known as one of the names of the valleys of the hellfire. So whenever you see the word wail for these people, right? Woe to these people, it's actually referring to a place in the hellfire that's designated for the people that whose description is going to be given next. Right? So you have wailul lil-mutaffifeen, wailul likulli humazatin lumaza, right? To everyone who kind of goes around backbiting, slandering, and causing problems, so on and so forth. Different ayat in the Quran that talk about this. Wailul yawma idhin lil-mukaththibeen, woe to woe to them on that day, to those who deny, those who were the deniers and who rejected, they will also be placed in this valley of the hellfire. So it denotes destruction. It's a name for one of the valleys of the hellfire. And to start the surah with this word indicates that there is some kind of threat or some kind of threat of punishment that's going to be mentioned. Right? Whenever this word is used, whatever is mentioned after it is not going to be something that's going to be a happy thing. It's going to be some kind of threatening, punishing type of information. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses this word for Al-Mutaffifeen. Right? Destruction or this valley in hellfire is reserved for Al-Mutaffifeen. And the rough translation of that is those who give less than due, and then it is explained further by the next 2 ayat. الَّذِينَ إِذَا اكْتَالُوا عَلَى النَّاسِ, that those when they give to people, or when they take from people in measure, they take in full, but when they measure up to them or give them in weight, they cause loss. And we'll explain what that means in a second. عن ابن عباس رضي الله عنه أن قال لما قدم النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم المدينة كانوا من أخبث الناس كيلا فأنزل الله سبحانه ويل للمطففين فأحسنوا الكيل بعد ذلك. Ibn Abbas, one of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, narrated that when the Prophet ﷺ came to the city of Medina, they were the worst people in weights and measures. Then Allah Azza wa Jal revealed the surah, Wailul Mutaffifeen, and so they became the best people in weights and measures after that. And this is referring to when they're buying and selling commodities. And the people of Mecca used to sell by weights. So when they would sell, dates or grain or whatever it was, they would weigh it. And the people of Medina would use measures. So a measure is like a cup or an ounce or whatever, something that you can measure not by weight but by size. So these two camps kind of did business a little bit different ways. The Meccans used to weigh things, and the Madinis used to give things by their measure. So the people of Medina used to be the worst, meaning they would cheat a lot in their dealings when they were giving people some kind of measure or something. It was just a widespread habit that existed amongst them. And so when this surah was revealed, after this surah, again, this message came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the threat came from Allah azza wa jal, that they changed their ways and they became the best people to give proper weights and proper measure. So Mutaffifeen, the word taffan, ina'un taffan, is used to refer to a vessel that you fill up but not all the way to the top. So if you were to take a glass and fill it up and leave a little bit of it at the top empty, this would be considered ina'un taffan. This is a vessel now that's not filled all the way to the top. So this is what they're doing when they're buying or when they're selling something to other people. They're using a measure or a weight, but they're not giving the proper equivalent of that measure or that weight. Right? They're cutting the people short. So if if I say I'm going to give you 1 cup, but I give you a little bit less, right? And just a little bit less. And this is something that Allah Azza wa Jal is telling them there's a serious punishment for. Because you're not being fair, you're not giving the people exactly what they're paying for. You're cheating them, you're cutting them short. And this refers to people that were doing this purposefully, intentionally, just to kind of cut people short, get some kind of benefit. Again, the scholars, they say if anything like this happens unintentionally, then you're not held accountable for it. If you're doing your best to try to make sure that when you give something as a business transaction or whatever in full, and if you fall short unintentionally, that's not going to be held against you. But what's really being, the word weight is being used as destruction or the valley in hellfire for the people who intentionally behave in this manner. And then Allah says, الَّذِينَ إِذَا اكْتَالُوا عَلَى النَّاسِ يَسْتَوْفُونَ. There are those who, when they take measure from the people, they take it full. Meaning that when it's their turn to go buy something, they make sure they're getting exactly the right amount of commodity that they're buying. And there was a person in the city of Medina, his name is known as Abu Juhayna. Abu Juhayna used to have 2 measures that were supposed to be the same size, right? And he said they were the same size. But for one, when he would go and purchase something, he would use his own, which was the exact measure. When he would sell something, he would use the other one, which was a little bit shorter, that would cut people short. Right? So this is kind of, he was known for this. And so the Prophet ﷺ also, denounced this practice. That, you have one measure that you take for yourself, which is the right measure, but when you're selling something, you're using the other one that's a little bit smaller, a little bit shorter, and you're cutting people short. There's many ways to do this, and in modern day, if you kind of, the way business is done overseas, and I spent some years in Pakistan, so I saw, they still use weights and measures to buy and sell things. And you see how they can be cheated on, right? And there's an interesting video online of a person using a scale, right? And this is actually current. This is modern day times. They're using a scale where they place the weight and then they put the chicken on this side and however much the chicken weighs. You pay for it based on the price of its weight. So the guy in the video, what he's doing is as the merchant puts the weights on this side, he moves the weight up farther on the scale and it goes up and down, right? Meaning there's some cheating happening in the scale. It depends on where you put the weight, it makes it heavier or lighter. So this is a form of cheating. This is exactly what Allah Azza wa Jalla is censuring and rebuking in this ayah. This is a practice that we still unfortunately find today taking place where merchants will try to cheat people by making things seem like they weigh more or they're giving them the proper measure where they're really not. But when they go, when this same merchant is going to go and buy the chicken, he's going to make sure that he weighs it properly, right? So he's going to make sure that when he's taking his right, he's going to get it in full. وَإِذَا كَالُوهُمْ أَوْ وَزَنُوهُمْ يُخْسِرُونَ. But when they are given measure or weight to the people, when they're doing the selling, they cause loss, meaning they cheat them in a way that makes, they take more money for less amount of stuff that's being given. So they cut people short, and this is a very minor thing, right? Tafif is something very, very minor. It's not even a lot. So what they're cutting people short is not even that much. It's literally, if you take a glass, you fill it, and you leave a little bit at the top, that's what Allah Azza wa Jalla is talking about here. So, this is a huge, huge deal with Allah Azza wa Jalla, even though what they're taking is only, they're taking advantage of only something minor. To Allah Azza wa Jalla, it's something big. Because you're not giving the people, you're not being honest, you're not giving the people that which they fully pay for. عن شداد بن عوس رضي الله عنه أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إن الله كتب الإحسان على كل شيء. Right, this is a beautiful hadith where the Prophet ﷺ, his narrator have said that Allah Azza wa Jal has commanded that you do ihsan in everything. that you have excellence in everything that you do. And this hadith talks about when you slaughter the animal, you should make sure you sharpen the knife, and so the animal doesn't feel pain, and so on and so forth. But the beginning of the hadith says that every single thing Allah has commanded that we use excellence in. So even when it comes to buying and selling and trading and doing business, we're supposed to be people that are aware that Allah Azza wa Jalla is watching us and not cutting other people short, not cheating them, so on and so forth. So while the ayah refers to weights and measures specifically, and while the wa'id or the threat in this ayah, the way, the destruction, is specifically referring to the transaction of the businessmen, again, there is a general principle that can be extracted from this ayah, or these ayat, and that is that we have to make sure that whatever we do, whenever we're giving something, it's right, or giving someone their rights, that they have to be done in full. We should not cut them short. And so this is considered by Allah to be an act of oppression, an act of embezzlement, and this is something which is lowly degraded behavior. And it has many, many forms. So we're going to give some examples of what we might behave this way in, and where we want to correct this behavior, because again, what we're doing is not giving people or things the right that's due to them. Shaykh Abdul Rahman al-Sa'di in his Tafsir, in his explanation of the Quran, in regard to this verse, he said, "Those engaged in a debate are eager to share their point of view and evidences. It is a must for them, according to this principle, which this ayah says, according to this principle, that they also clarify the arguments of their opponent and that they consider them as they would consider their own. This is how you can tell a person to either be just or biased, humble or arrogant, or intelligent or foolish." So what he's saying is, when you're arguing with somebody, you have a debate, you have your position, they have their position, right? And we had a lot of debates right now, right? We had the Republican debates, the Democratic debates, right? We have a lot of these things happening. What happens in a debate is the person wants to speak and get their point across all the time. They don't want to listen to the other person. They don't want to give them a chance to speak. But he says, according to this principle, if you're having an argument with somebody, you have to give them the same consideration. You have to give their arguments the same consideration you would give your own. Meaning, just as you speak and give your evidences, you have to let them speak, give their evidences. And just like you would consider carefully your position, you have to consider carefully their position. This is also a form of tafsir, basically, of cutting people short. Not taking seriously what they're saying when you're engaged in an argument with them. This is Shaykh Abdul Rahman Sa'di, what he mentions in his tafsir. Some of the ulama, the scholars, they mention other things, other ways in which you can cut people short. So as an employee, you take wages for a job that you're supposed to do. But if you're not fulfilling the duties that are placed upon you, right, doing everything that job description tells you to do, doing it the way you're supposed to do it, then that is also a form of tatfif. You're cutting something short. You're not doing it the way that it's actually supposed to be done, but you're taking your full right for it. You're taking the wages that you earn for it. As an employer, it also goes the other way around. If you're getting the work out of your employee, right, you're making them do every little thing that they're supposed to do, but then you cut them short when it comes time to pay them or give them their benefits or anything like that. This is also tatfif, because you're taking things in full, but you're not giving them back as they are supposed to be given back. In your prayer, some of the ulama also mentioned the salah is something which you can actually cut short. Your actual physical prayer that you have to do before Allah Azza wa Jalla. If you don't take care of all the conditions before the prayer, which is making wudu properly, making sure you have clean clothes on, making sure the place is clean. If you're not performing all the obligations of the prayer, meaning we have to recite al-Fatiha, you have to make the ruku, you have to make the sujood, you have to have calmness in all your acts of prayer. If you're cutting that short, then that's also tatfif, right? It's also the same thing as you're not fulfilling the full right. And there's a hadith, in Bukhari, the Prophet it's mentioned that a man entered the masjid and he started praying while the Messenger of Allah was sitting somewhere in the mosque, in the masjid. Then after finishing the prayer, he came to him and greeted him. The Prophet greeted him and said, "Go back and pray, for you have not prayed." So a man walks in, he just performs his prayer. He comes to the Prophet and he says, "Wa alaikum salam, go pray, you have not prayed." So he went back, and having prayed again, he came and greeted the Prophet again. The Prophet after returning his greeting said, "Go back and pray, for you did not pray." Again, he said it again. On the third time, the man said, "Ya Rasulullah, O Messenger of Allah, teach me how to pray." Because he keeps going back and doing the prayer, keeps going back, and he's told, "Go back, you have not prayed." So the Prophet said, when you get up for the prayer, perform the ablution, the wudu properly. Then face the Qibla. Then say Takbir, Allahu Akbar. Then recite what you know of the Quran. Then bow and remain in this state till you feel rest or at ease in bowing. Then raise your head and stand straight, and then prostrate until you feel at rest in prostration. Then sit up until you feel rest while sitting. Then prostrate again until you feel rest in prostration in the sajda, and then get up and stand straight, and then do this in the rest of the prayer. Right? So meaning, When you pray, you have to make sure you're having this sakina, this tumanina, this calmness in your prayer, that you're doing things properly. And he even mentioned making wudu, right? So it might mean that he might even make wudu properly, making the condition of the salah as well. So giving the prayer its due right is something that's very, very important. And the scholars, they also call this tatfif, that you can cut short your prayer if you're not careful and mindful of what you're supposed to do. Concealing knowledge, especially when you're asked or your counsel is taken and you have that knowledge. Right? If people come to you seeking advice and you have that knowledge and you don't give that knowledge to them in full, this is also considered tatfif. Again, something that a character of a Muslim should not have. Right? We should not feel shy, or we should not feel like we have ownership of something that we can't share with other people. Right? So when people ask you about something and you have that knowledge, you should tell them. Right? So if somebody comes and asks you, how can I fix this problem? And you know how to fix this problem, and this happens. And we don't tell them because we don't want them to fix the problem, right? This is not fair. This is cutting people short, and not giving them what is due to them. Especially when we are people in positions where people come and ask us of certain things. I mean, we appreciate that they come and ask us. We should be able to give them the proper knowledge as is needed. Also, some other forms. Parents and the way they treat their kids has to be mentioned, right? There has to be justice between how you treat your children, right? You can't just treat all of them separately in a different way. And again, justice is not necessarily what we call literal equality, right? There's equality, which you give everybody the same thing, and then there's justice, which you give people the things that they need that are due to them. And also the other way around, kids to their parents. Both of your parents deserve your love and your respect and your dutifulness. So, not giving one and then ignoring the other, so on and so forth. And also the same applies to spouses, husband and wife. Again, this happens a lot, where one side will seek all of their rights, right? They will say, well, I want this and I want that. This is my right. Allah says this. But they won't be giving the other person that which is due to them, right? This is unfortunately a common problem that we have, that may Allah Azza wa Jalla, put in our hearts to fix these situations. When our rights are violated by our spouses, it comes to, immediately we feel like this is our right, it's due to us by Allah. But we don't take into consideration how many of their rights are we giving to them. So may Allah Azza wa Jalla guide us and help us to understand. Right after this passage where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about tatfif, cutting people short, even if it's by a very, very little amount, he immediately goes to the next passage and he says, أَلَا يَظُنُّ أُولَٰئِكَ أَنَّهُمْ مَبْعُوثُونَ لِيَوْمٍ عَظِيمٍ يَوْمَ يَقُومُ النَّاسُ لِرَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. So after he's saying that people behave in this fashion, where they don't give people what is due to them in full. And then he says, do they not certainly believe? Do they not believe with certainty that they will be resurrected? That they will be brought back to life after they have died for a tremendous day, for a great day, which is the day of account, the day of judgment, the day where mankind will stand before Rabb al-Alameen, the Lord of all that exists. Right? This one little, you're cutting people short in a minor thing, but you're doing it over and over and over again. This is a bad business practice, it's lying, it's cheating. And Allah says, these people, do they not really think with certainty that they're going to be held accountable before me? And so the ulama is saying these ayat are addressing the believers, the Muslimin, the believers who are behaving in this way. Because they have to understand, they're the ones that say, we believe in the akhirah, we believe in the hereafter. Some of the scholars say it's referring to the disbelievers, and that again they're being reminded of the fact that there is an akhirah. And the fact that you're behaving in this way means you don't believe that you're going to be held accountable for what you do. But it applies to both. It applies to Muslims and it applies to non-Muslims, right? If Muslims are behaving in this way, it's fair to ask them, do you really not believe that you're going to be held accountable for what you did in the Day of Judgment? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask you for what you did. So it's tying in the bad character and behavior again to not realizing that one will be held accountable before Allah. And therefore the surah is encouraging or reminding us about the hereafter and the importance of even the actions that we do, especially the actions that we do and how they affect other people. Right? We're taking money from other people and not giving them their due. So again, it's as if they were saying that if they really were certain of this fact, they would not behave in this way. And this is what the message is to the believers. That if you really believe in Allah and His Messenger, and you believe in the message that you will be held accountable on the Day of Judgment, you will not behave in this way. So you will not cut people short, you will not cut the rights that you owe other people and other things short. Right? As an employer, you will do what you're supposed to do. As an employee, you will take care of business the way you're supposed to take care of business. As a husband, you'll behave, give all the rights that you're supposed to give. And as a father, as a child, so on and so forth. You will behave the way that you're supposed to behave if you believe in the akhirah and the hereafter and being held accountable for what you did. And this is what, alhamdulillah, one of the ways Islam spread in the parts of the world where there were no Muslim armies was the businessmen, when they would go and they would be dealing in business, and they would be dealing in business with such honesty that people were amazed. Why are you behaving? You're behaving in such an honest fashion, in such a fair fashion. And they would say, well, because we're going to be held accountable before Allah Azza wa Jal. And this had an effect on people, right? That people, when they're aware that God is watching them, that they're behaving in the best way that they can. يوم يقوم الناس لرب العالمين is the day when mankind will stand before رب العالمين, the Lord of all that exists. This phrase we explained in Surah Al-Fatiha. But again, the ayah is telling us that they will be resurrected from their graves and made to stand. Right? يوم يقوم الناس لرب العالمين. And this standing is something which is mentioned in some of the hadith of the Prophet, and some of the narrations of the Prophet ﷺ. Excuse me. One of the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, يقوم أحدهم في رشحه إلى أنصاف أذنيه. That some of them will be standing in his own sweat, which will be up to his ears. And we talked about this again, that on the day of resurrection, Allah Azza wa Jalla, even though He will destroy the sun in this world, there will be a sun that will exist, it will be brought close to the people, and people will be sweating. There will be a crowd of people, they're going to be sweating, and they will be sweating at different levels because the sun will be so close. So the worst of the worst types of people will be sweating to the point where they're drowning in their own sweat. Right? This is one of the descriptions that's given of the day of judgment, when people are standing and waiting for judgment to take place. Those that were sinful, extremely sinful, will even begin to be punished from that very moment. And in another hadith, the Prophet said some their sweat will be to their ankles, some to their knees, some to their thighs, some to their sides, some to their shoulders, and then some will be drowning in their own sweat, like this hadith mentions. They will be up to their ears in their own sweat while they're just waiting for judgment to begin. Right? So Allah is reminding us that even just before your account even begins, you're going to be facing things, consequences for the choices you made in this world. Right? So why put yourself in this situation? Recognize that the akhirah is real, and that Allah Azza wa Jalla will hold us to account. And again, for something, minor, we think of it to be minor, but it's really with Allah Azza wa Jalla, it's something major. Right? Why? Because you're not being honest, you're taking advantage of other people, and if this practice is allowed to be something which is accepted and natural, then obviously it'll grow into something worse. And we know how bad business practices, if we don't take care of them immediately, well, they just get worse and worse and worse. And how people can be taken advantage of, and how people can be made to pay large prices for things that are really not worth that much, and so on and so forth. So for bad business practice, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given a severe threat. And in the rest of the ayat, inshallah, we'll cover, we'll start next week. The next few passages, one talks about the fujab, those who are sinful and cross the limits, what will be their abode, and then the other one the next passage talks about the abrar, those who are righteous and pious. Similar to the previous surah, but different things are mentioned here as well, inshallah. So we'll stop with this, and if there are any questions or comments, take them, inshallah. No.
This is what we mentioned, it's really so beautiful, especially for this Mutaffifeen. Almost you face it in every aspect in your life, especially with the professional matter. When everybody has a profession, sometimes you have this problem. Let's give you an example. Yes, you have a medical doctor or IT man or whatever, those very important strategic profession.
Yeah.
Maybe you might have someone is with you with the same profession, and he might ask you a question. It might help him to do the business or to do the cure, to do the diagnosis and the treatment. Some, they don't like to give the answer because they might think, and I have heard this from others, I went to a school and I paid a lot of money and I spent a lot of time to get all this knowledge, and yet in one word or in one aspect I will give him all the information, I'm not going to give it to him.
Exactly.
So in this case, what a person should act? Should he give the information, or he should consider he does not have to?
No, of course. I mean, this is, again, we say that ilm that we have, the money that was there, the schooling that was there, the knowledge that we've received, all of it comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah also has mentioned, the Prophet told us again, that هَلْ تُرْزَقُونَ وَتُنْصَرُونَ إِلَّا بِالدُّعَفَاءِ فِيكُمْ, right? That are you given any help? Are you given any risk? Except because of those who are weak amongst you. So this comes from Allah Azza wa Jalla, and we have to get it out of our heads that we did something. Right? This is a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We were blessed with the wealth, with the opportunity, with the knowledge, and as the Prophet ﷺ said, are you given any kind of aid or any kind of provision except because of those who are lesser around you? Right? So if you're given wealth, it's for you to take care of yourself and those who are weak and they don't have that amount of wealth. So the same thing with knowledge. As the ulama, they mentioned very, very severely that kitmanul ilm, that concealing knowledge is a sin, right? And again, this is any kind of thing. So if you have something of benefit to give to other people, yes, you can make a living out of what you have, but when somebody is sincerely asking you for some kind of advice, and you have that knowledge, you should give it to them. right? You should give it to them. And again, Allah Azza wa Jalla is the one that gave us that knowledge. He can give other people that knowledge. He can take it away from us. He can take away the honor that we have. So it's only by sharing and really dealing the proper way that, as we mentioned. Again, but Tafsir here, specifically, if there's a relationship. There's a relationship here, right? And again, in things, matters that are important, the importance of it becomes even higher. So if it's something trivial, okay, maybe not so important, but it's something like medicine, or you go to a doctor, or things like that, then it becomes more and more and more. And alhamdulillah, Allah is the one that blesses us with the wealth and the knowledge and the honor and everything. And He can give it and He can take it away. Okay?
Well, I have faced like this incidences, two incidences. One of them, he told him frankly, face to face, I have spent all those time, money, etc., etc. I'm not going to give it to you because I have given it to you. If I have given it to you, you're going to go and do act and you'll get like me. I'm not going to give it to you. I'm jealous. Number one. Number two, I have seen another person. He said he was really like, mashallah, like ocean. Whatever question, he's very knowledgeable. He has master, etc. Whatever question you ask about his profession, he will completely open. Thinking, as you mentioned, Imam Saab, that the rizq from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you have this, I just want to share this with you. The rizq from Allah and the knowledge from Allah, as you mentioned, and if I have given it to someone, he's not going to decrease your income and increase his income. That we have to be certain that all of it from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Alhamdulillah. And that's what really saves us. That's what the Prophet said, Allahu fi awni al-abdi, ma kana al-abdu fi awni akhi. Allah is there to continue to help the abd, the servant, as long as he is there helping his brothers. Right? So the more you do for others, the more Allah Azza wa Jalla will do for you. When you give sadaqah, right, when you give charity, your wealth is not decreased. Right? Your wealth is, and people have actually, we have, examples of this, people giving, and then, getting more and more and more. Allah Azza wa Jalla takes care of those who takes care of others. We should never feel shy, especially when it comes to any knowledge that we have, right? That we share it with other people, inshallah. Because Allah Azza wa Jalla gave it to us, we help other people, Allah Azza wa Jalla will give us more, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair.
Question.
Yes, Madhu.
Yeah, well, I like to ask a question. Is there a relationship with this, maybe a little bit, when the person wants to buy a car and, the culture they were raised up in taught them, well, if you got this credit, you should be proud to buy this car. But there's going to be, you have to finance it. But other people do it, it's socially acceptable. How do you kind of move away from that and with a smile be happy to kind of give that up? Can you does it relate to that? I mean, is it wrong? I kind of get a
maybe not necessarily relates to this. We will definitely talk about it in more detail, inshallah. But one of the concepts, again, that we understand as Muslims is that, again, Islam came at a time when, there were many things that were happening that were not appropriate to Allah, right? They were not appropriate or deemed appropriate by God. And so, people were told to behave in a way that is appropriate to God. And some of those things made sense to the people, some of those things didn't make sense to the people, right? We mentioned like they would bury their daughters alive, for example, right? And other things like they would worship stones and rocks and that they would make themselves. All of these kinds of things. Included amongst those things that were challenged were financial practices, right? So they would use interest and usury and what's what we call riba, where they would exchange two things, but one for a higher price, right? So it's like I'm giving you something, you're giving me something, but if I give you 1 day, you're going to give me 2 days for me to give you this 1 day, for example, right? So it's taking more than what the value of something is, and this was a practice that Islam also came to say this is wrong, right? This is wrong. This is taking advantage of the people. This is making money off of nothing, right? You're just making money by taking advantage of the financial situation of the people. So this, in general, things like this are not considered appropriate in Islam, right? When it comes to financing and then because of the interest and so on and so forth that's involved, right? There is an Islamically appropriate way to do it if it doesn't involve the interest in these kinds of things. But again, the society we live in, we understand that this is there. But that should not stop us from understanding that, this is exactly similar to the situation that the Prophet ﷺ came in. He came in and preached at a time where society around him was doing many things that were not considered appropriate by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we do our very best to stay out of whatever is not appropriate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, except in times of severe need. The scholars, they make exception of, when there's a necessity or a severe need for something, then you can maybe engage in something that may be prohibited as a general rule. But we have to understand that we can still practice our deen, our religion, as much as we possibly can, by avoiding as much as we possibly can of things that are considered inappropriate to God. And for every individual situation, there's an individual solution, right? So we can talk more about it in detail, inshallah. But the general answer is that riba, or interest, any transaction that contains interest, is considered inappropriate, is considered impermissible. And so therefore we have to find either alternative solutions, or look at and see whether or not there's a genuine need for what we're trying to accomplish through taking a loan from something that would require us to pay interest. So inshallah, I hope that kind of answers your question. But we'll talk in detail, inshallah. Any other questions? Nothing financial, please. I'm very bad at finances. Okay, inshallah, I'll end this. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك اشهد ان لا اله الا انت استغفرك واتوب اليك. جزاك الله خير.